Hello and welcome. I am DEJI360 and thank you very much for joining us. Now, the people of Ekiti State have a date with history today. They're choosing a new governor for the state. Now, there's quite a number of, persons now politicians running for the position of, as a matter of fact, there are 18 of them. So you could say the people of Ekiti State are spoiled for choice. What we're going to do right now is just to take you through some statistics. Now, let us take a look at the number of, as I told you, we have 18 candidates actually running, and the number of local government areas in Ekiti State, 16. Now, of the 18 candidates that are running, 3 of them are actually considered the front runners, and here they are. You have Dr. Kayode Fayemi of the APC, who is, of course, the incumbent governor. You have Ayo Fayose of the PDP, who used to be the governor of that state, so a former governor. And then you have Okpeyemi Bamidele, who was in the APC and then defected to the Labour Party to run. As a matter of fact, he's a member of member of the House of Representatives, I should say. And these are the front runners. But of course, we have 18 candidates running, but the 3 of them are considered the front runners. Now, let's take a look at the next slide. Now, you have this slide talks about the distribution of local government areas now by senatorial district. Ekiti State has altogether 16 local government areas. Now, divide them by their senatorial district. For Ekiti Central Senatorial District, we have 5 local government there. You have Ado, Efon, Ekiti West, Ijero, and Irekbodu, Ifelodu. Now, something you should know. The candidate of the PDP and that of the Labour Party, that's Ayo Fayose and Bamidele Okpeyemi, are both from this senatorial district. And so they'll be waging serious battle in that senatorial district. And you could as well say they would split the vote among themselves there. And do not also forget that, of course, the governor of the state, that's the incumbent governor of Fayemi, would definitely be taking his own turn here as well. He would want to pick some votes at Ekiti, for instance. That is the capital of the state. There's no question at all that the governor would want to pick an enormous number of votes there, because that's where you actually have the highest number of votes. Now, we're going to look at that. Let's look at the next senatorial district, which is, let's go now. And that is Ekiti North Senatorial District. There you have it. This is the senatorial district of the incumbent governor, Kayode Fayemi. He's from Oye local government area, and of course, he'll be expecting to make a very strong show in here. And do not also forget that the other 2 candidates would also be expecting to make a very strong show. And there you have them, 5 local government areas under Ekiti North Senatorial District. Let's take a look at Ekiti South Senatorial District. Now, there you have 6 local government areas. None of the candidates I'm talking about the front runners now, the 3 front runners. None of them now comes from this area. But of course, they would be aiming to pick up votes here. Now, let's take a look at another slide. This one now talks about, the voters now, the number of voters you have in each senatorial district. In Ekiti Central, that's Ekiti Central where Fayemi and the Labour Party candidate Okpeyemi Bamidele come from, where you have the total number of registered voters there, 301,765. That senatorial district has the highest number of registered voters. So there's no question at all that the APC candidate is not from this senatorial district, but he would be aiming to make a very strong show in here, because of course you have the state capital is also under that senatorial district. Ekiti North, where of course the incumbent governor comes from, you have the total number of registered voters there, 190,628 votes, and for Ekiti South, 204,683 votes. We'll take a look at something else now. The polling statistics. Ekiti South Senatorial District, the registered voters, no, we're not talking about Ekiti South anyway, but the total number of registered voters here in Ekiti State is 732,166 votes. Now, something interesting. The number of female registered voters, 371,419. So you have 51% females and males, 49%. It definitely means the candidates will be aiming to win big with the female voters in this election, because obviously the females are more in number. And then you have the polling units. You have 2,195 polling units, and the voting points, 2,800 Remember, it's not for Ekiti Senatorial, Ekiti South, I should say. Now, these are the local government areas with the highest number of voters. Now, these local government areas, you could call them the catchment areas for votes. At Ekiti, as we said, that's where you have, that's the state capital, I should say, has 134,141 registered voters. And look at the number of voting points there, 455. So, the biggest catchment area of votes for this election at Ekiti. Then next is Irekpodu Ifelodu, where, of course, the candidate of the Labour Party, as well as the candidate, that's the local government where the candidate of the Labour Party and that of the PDP come from. So you have 54,000 plus there. And there you have the number. You have Ijero, Ikole, Ekiti East, or that's where the governor, the incumbent governor, comes from. The total number of registered voters there, 45,918. And then you have 195 voting points. So, I mean, quite a lot. Let's take a look at the next slide now. Now, how should a winner emerge in this election? Because, you know, it's one thing to win the highest number of votes. It's a different thing at all to get 25% of the votes in all the local government areas. But this is the provision of the Constitution. It says a winner must first win majority of the votes cast in the election. And secondly, so there are two conditions. Secondly, the winner must score 25% of votes cast in 2/3. That's 2/3 of all the local government areas in Ekiti State. Now, 2/3 of 16 should be, say, 10 point something. But by approximation, it's 11. So if a candidate wins 11, gets 25% in 11 local government area, it's not enough. That candidate must also score majority of the votes cast to be able to be declared the governor-elect. So the people of Ekiti State should bear that in mind, and of course the candidates know that. We only hope that the election goes peacefully and that at the end of the day, the people's choice prevail. Now, we'll take a short break. When we come back, I'll have some analysts join us on the program to still talk more about the Ekiti State governorship election. Don't go away. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Now, we want to take a look at the other side of this election. Now, since we're done with the analysis, I'm being joined on the program now by two gentlemen. One is, well, should be an election observer, should have been in Ekiti State, but he's not in Ekiti State. He's here with us. Mr. Wale Ogwade is the president of Voters Awareness Initiative, and I also have a political affairs analyst, Mr. Chike Chude. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Let me start with you, the observer. You're not in Ekiti, you're here. But tell us how, from the point of an observer now, how you expect this election to go.
I expect it to go peacefully. Calm, people go to the polling unit, cast their votes. If they want to, wait. Now the election, their votes are counted, pasted, and of course, go home. The team that wins, go home joyfully. But again, the view of the politician, the build-up.
Yeah, let's talk about the build-up. As an observer, you look at the build-up and not just the election day itself. I mean, from the build-up to the election day, what is your own observation?
It was very, it was a dangerous. It was a. I'm lost of word. It wasn't something expected.
It's like going to war.
Why? For votes, killing, maiming. With all the stress, we are not in a military state. And anyway, I've done some little research. There is aristocracy, there is democracy, there is gerontocracy, there is militocracy. This one now is power show-cracy. Power show-crazy. They want to show that not only are they in power, but they are in government. And unfortunately, it won't take them anywhere because Ekiti is a different ball game. The Ekiti people are so aware, educated, and intelligent. and nobody should try to insult them.
Let me go to Achike. It's quite surprising that when we're holding elections in this country, it's like we're going to war. I mean, you have so many people, you have the deployment of soldiers, deployment of policemen. Look at the number of policemen that have been deployed, and look at the number of civil defense corps members that have been deployed. I mean, it's actually very surprising. It would appear this election is very crucial, as some people have said, from a political standpoint.
Well, I think this is one of the deficits of our democratic experiment from 1999 to date. You want to believe that after 15 years of continuous so-called democracy, where elections have been held every 4 years, that every new election will be an improvement of the previous election. That is what is expected. We know we have not gotten there, but we know it should be a process. Now, if you look at some of the elections we've had, especially the 2011 election, that one was marked relatively, the general election 2011, by some level of calmness. You know, though we must emphasize that having a peaceful election does not translate to having a free, fair, credible, accountable election. It's a different thing. Now people are beginning to talk about scientific rigging of voting and so on. So you don't need to bring in all the troops, all the thugs and so on, in order to have the kind of desired result that you expect. You know, that is it. But again, I think you said, you know, something about the militarization of our politics. In the 21st century, I think it's a sad reminder that the country has not made any progress. At this particular point in time, elections should be seen as a matter of routine, something that you do in the life of a nation.
Well,
you just go to the votes, but over time, and I don't think this is peculiar with Ekiti State. All of the major elections, especially governorship elections, like there has been heavy militarization of this election. Soldiers, troops, I mean, policemen on the streets.
Well, maybe to 2015 we may not have that opportunity, you know, because we have the military fully engaged in the war against the insurgents.
No, they will always muster, you know. So, but again, you know, when you have a general election like this, the logistics become much more difficult and so on. You know, so like I said, I think it is a crying shame that at this level we have to rely heavily on the presence of a security forces.
Let's look at the election itself. I mean, the election taking place now, 18 candidates, all gunning for one position. It's healthy for democracy, you would say?
Of course. I mean, that is what it's all about. I mean, democracy is about numbers, not numbers at the level of the electorate, but even numbers at the level of those who want to participate.
So the people of Ekiti are spoiled for choices.
Oh, they are. But again, you ultimately you have to narrow it down to those that matter, those that are consequential in this case, and you will not perhaps have more than 3-4 of those candidates that stand a chance of perhaps making it to government house ultimately at the end of the day. Yeah, for all the other people, it's about joining the jamboree, being part of it, if not for any other thing. But at least it's also good for Nigerians, for people to not just, you know, be seen to be heard. Also, but they have to do certain things to show people that they are there, they matter, they count.
Let's just narrow down to, say, the PDP and the APC. This is very crucial for it. Just what do you think is at stake for the two political parties? Because most people will tell you, well, some people have said this is a 3-horse race, but, you know, to a large extent, most people will tell you it's a 2-horse race, more likely between the APC and the PDP. So what's at stake for...
What's at stake? I think everything. Everything's at stake. Every major election in this country is an indication.
Especially when you look towards 2015. The PDP
of course,
that's want to make a statement.
Every major election in this country is an indication of the political fortunes or misfortunes of each of these political parties. Talk about the Anambra election, which was a deficit, a minus for the APC because they lost that election. No matter the permutations, no matter the fact that I mean, they went to court and the rest, you know, the reality at the end of the day is who won that election. Now we are not talking about the manner of winning. You know, then you also talk about some of the senatorial...
A deficit for the party,
You talk about some of the senatorial elections, the one that held in Delta, about 1 or 2 that held in Delta State, the APC lost. You talk about the one that is nearer to home, the one in Ondo State, the APC also lost, and of course it should also be a deficit for the PDP, but the PDP was obviously happy that even they lost, and that Mimiko, the Labour Party won it, because it was a statement of intent about the capacity of the APC in the Southwest. And that is why they're bringing everything to bear. Because the target is not just the governorship election in some of these states. The target is the big one, the national election, which is the presidency of this country. Because once you have the presidency, you have everything. And so some of the problems, for instance, that are emanating, as a result of the Ekiti State election, not allowing people to come into Ekiti State and so on, that is due to the presence of the federal government, the power at the center. So with that power at the center, you're able to do so many things, and you can influence so many things and so on. So for them, it's really everything is up for grabs. And so if they can make a statement, the PDP, about Ekiti State, and they can take Ekiti State under whatever circumstances,
and then you have another one coming up in August.
Exactly. If they can take Ekiti State, then they can justify any other state that they take in the Southwest or any other part of the country. You understand? And then for the APC, is the same thing that also that goes in there too. If they can take Ekiti State, then they can also make a statement that this is the no-go area. If they can retain Ekiti State, they can also make that statement that come whatever, all the states that we are in control of, we will maintain control of those states. You understand? And of course, when you now talk about that situation, you have a very, very desperate situation. It is not untoward, it is not surprising that some of these political parties will begin to act in ways that are subversive to the electoral laws in the country.
Because the stakes are high.
Yeah, because stakes are high. And I recollect, and it's important that I make this point, a particular program on television some time ago that pitted big wigs of the PDP and then the APC. I think that was the spokesman of the APC, Lai Mohammed, and then the spokesman for the president on the media, Doyo Kupe. And they were discussing on TV, and they were arguing. You know what they were arguing about? Each of them was arguing that the other political party is a better rigger and a greater rigger of elections than their own. So there was an acceptance of the fact that they realized that rigging and manipulation of election is a natural consequence of the desperation of the political class in this country. But the issue in contention was that the PDP was a greater rigger than the APC, or that the APC was a greater rigger than the PDP. And I found it very enlightening, but at the same time very sad, that it would appear that our political class seems not to understand the essence of democracy and the essence of election.
And let me just pause you there and bring in Mr. Gwade. For you, how crucial do you think, because do you think this is just, whether you like it or not, this is a fight for 2015? It's really not just about the governorship of Ekiti State, that it goes beyond that.
Obviously. Maybe I will just digress a little bit from my brother here. What happened before the event of barring
people from coming to the state?
I will tell you, PDP was on the highest on winning in terms of the acceptability and co. But there were forces against them. The professionals, the educated, and those who hate injustice and who say, no, we want this state to be on the line of probity. The various allegations, EFCC issues, impeachment issue, the chicken issues, and so on, right? They are all issues on ground against Fayose. But then, this we are able to be brushed off because, unfortunately, being a man who is involved in elections, I know that, in fact, the professionals and co may not play any role in terms of voting, because that's where the issue is. And these people who are on the ground are the main voters. But, excuse me, but the main issue was that the blockage, the border closure will do a lot of damage for the APC or whatever that is coming. But mine was that what will really now do the more colossal damage, because you see, these things are about sentiments now. It's about the closure and the barring of movement and so on, and the use of sheer force. And I told you, it didn't work in Edo, And I don't see, because Edo is even...
I'm sorry, but I just have to interrupt you and ask you this question.
Yeah.
You are an election observer. You've observed so many elections. When the average Nigerian voter goes to the poll, what exactly is on their mind? What do they go to vote for? Are they motivated by money or whatever, or they are motivated by the performance of people? They are motivated by who the candidates are? Because as a people of Ekiti, as a vote now, what exactly would they be thinking about?
I'm sure the
average voter. Is it that somebody has performed well in office, or somebody who was there did better, or is it money, the average Nigerian? Because we could say, well, the Ekiti voter is just like the average Nigerian voter.
If you look at it, I guess the population of Ekiti State is more than 2 million, but they are counting just 500,000 voters. You know,
registered voters around 700 and something thousand. Yeah.
Those who the actual voters now. But let's take it and leave that one aside. I may come to that later. You find out that the majority of the voters are downtrodden, those who are not educated, and that's why voters awareness comes in. And if there's no voter education, people just go there just on the basis of sentiments to vote as an election observer. If you go to on election day, you hardly find people of serious means, people who are well educated. Those that you find on the queue are very few people who are friends of either candidate
or they've been given something.
They've given something to vote. So they are there, and of course it's the principle of, see, I come to support you. They are not there out of their own personal conviction. They are not there, yes, to be part of the process. And that is why now my group, Voters Awareness Initiative, has come out with a project.
But how do you how do you educate a man who is very hungry, Achike? How do you educate someone who is very hungry and you expect the person to just go there and vote their conscience? It's a difficult call.
Yeah, DG, I think that's a fundamental observation. Somebody said that a man is loyal to the person who has put bread on his table. It's the reality. Because the first law of nature is survival. And so a man is motivated by those things that satisfy his interests first before he begins to think of that of his neighbor.
Unfortunately so in this part of the world.
Unfortunately so in this part of the world. And so I think it needs a higher, level of education and philosophy of life for you to be able to transcend those things that concern you personally and begin to think of other things that are general, more or less. So without that kind of education, and which we have established here, that the people are downtrodden, they are not educated, and so on. Even if they're educated, they are hungry, So
and it would appear people who actually come out.
Yeah, no, they are the ones that come out. No doubt about that.
Not the educated and enlightened.
Yes, so it would appear that those who have made it difficult for them and impossible for them to live meaningful lives also determine the direction that they go even during elections.
So unfortunate.
You understand? It is unfortunate. So it is as if they are trapped, we are trapped as a people, we are trapped in a cage and we cannot get out. We know the right thing to do, but we lack the ability to do the right thing because the man who has put us in that situation has what it takes, at least to satisfy some of our base instincts, at least temporarily. He's in a position to give us 5,000 naira that might take care of our needs for today and tomorrow. When you have a situation where, for instance, we have been told that the average Nigerian, that 70% of Nigerians are living on less than $1 a day, but that does not tell the whole story. 70% of Nigerians on less than $1 a day. Now, they didn't tell us how many live on less than $2 a day or less than $3, $4 a day.
Quite true.
So by the time you go through the whole hog, perhaps you have another 5% living on $2 a day. Another 5% again living on less than $5 a day. So ultimately, at the end of the day, those who are left, who can carry out meaningful existence, are perhaps 10% of the population. Out of this 10%, maybe 1% is the super rich, those who are holding the resources of this country.
Yeah.
So you have a people that have been traumatized, a people that have been so much impoverished.
And that's why the politicians spend so much money.
And for as long as you do not have that power,
yeah.
exactly, as long as you don't have that power to take care of yourself and satisfy your basic needs, you find out that some of those needs will be determined by the interest of some other people who might not necessarily be your best friends.
Well, I think we'll just have to leave this discussion there, unfortunately. But, when you hear politicians say they spend billions and and billions of naira for elections. We understand where the money goes to. It's not, it doesn't go into voter education. You don't get money for
But the people pay a price. Ultimately, they will tell you, we paid you.
Price, exactly.
They will pay, whether it's 2,000 naira you are giving, you were paid for that man to get there.
And that is true. And so if the man gets in there and he's not performing,
he has discharged his responsibilities to you.
And unfortunately, that's why we say people should not, even if you take money really, because that's one of the things we advocate, because it's part of the money they've stolen. Well, if you take the money, don't vote for them, because that 2,000 naira, that 2,000 naira will not take you anywhere.
I would say don't take the money.
It's part of your national campaign.
I would say don't take the money, because you take the money, you're hooked.
No.
I mean, I know this thing, it's psychological. You take the money, you're hooked. You just have to do. Well, that's it. That's how much we can take on the program today. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We hope the people of Ekiti State make the right choice and vote for whoever they think will make a better governor for them. It's on that note, we say goodbye and we'll see you next time. I'm DEJI360. Bye-bye.